Imagine waking up to the news that a new ballistic missile has been launched against Israel, and not directly from Iran, but from the heart of Yemen. This isn't a movie. This happened. In the last few hours, the Houthi rebels, Iran's direct allies, officially declared the launch of the dreaded Palestine 2 missile against the city of Tel Aviv, a long-range weapon laden with political, religious, and military symbolism. But what's behind all this? What isn't the mainstream international media reporting? While headlines merely repeat numbers and generic data, a new layer of conflict is forming in the Middle East. And it's not just military, but spiritual, strategic, and highly prophetic. The Houthi offensive is not an isolated event. It's part of a much larger web, a plan that involves Iran, Hezbollah, Syria, and even the silent behind-the-scenes support of Russia and China. This is the kind of development that escapes the traditional lens of the Western press, but has been clearly predicted by biblical prophecy scholars for decades. The Palestine 2 missile, named with clear symbolic intent, represents more than a weapon. It's a message, a direct provocation to Israel, a warning that the siege is tightening. The latest information reveals that the attack originated from a Houthi-controlled military base in Yemen and traveled nearly 1,000 kilometers before being intercepted by the Israeli defense system. The intent was clear: to hit Israel's nerve center in Tel Aviv and trigger a chain reaction that could engulf the entire region. And the response came. Israel, in immediate retaliation, bombed strategic ports in Yemen, destroying military bases and even the Houthi-controlled ship Galaxy Leader. According to the Israeli government, the actions were surgical, targeting exclusively military targets. But the impact goes far beyond physical destruction. We're talking about an escalation with explosive potential, capable of dragging new nations into the fray. NATO is on alert. The United States has reinforced its naval presence, and behind the scenes, a narrative war is in full swing. What the press avoids mentioning is the presence of Iranian-made missiles being secretly deployed to militia-controlled bases in Lebanon and Syria. Iran, while not officially claiming responsibility for the Houthi attacks, has been leaving increasingly obvious clues about its influence and logistical support. And if we dig even deeper, we find connections with Scripture. Many scholars point out that the siege against Israel described in Ezekiel 38 and 39 is unfolding before our eyes. A coalition of nations, now embodied in names like Iran, Russia, Turkey, and their allies, is already in motion. The pieces are being positioned, and it all began almost silently with a shot from Yemen. But why now? Why this attack at a time of fragile ceasefire? The answer may lie in what we cannot see: parallel geopolitical movements, secret agreements, disputes over territory and resources, and above all, the advancement of a spiritual plan aimed at shaking the foundations of truth and freedom. It is no exaggeration to say that we are facing a war zone of biblical proportions. With each passing day, actions seem to align with what was foretold millennia ago. Deception grows, alliances grow darker, and the world grows blinder. While many see it as just another chapter in the conflict between Israel and its neighbors, those following the signs know that something much larger is brewing. The use of the name Palestine, too, was no accident. It's a symbolic call for the end of Israel, a provocation that seeks to emotionally destabilize a nation and provoke a global response. And it will come. Israel will not let this attack go unpunished. But the question remains: who is pulling the strings behind these actions? What are the true hidden agendas in this new chapter? The mainstream media wants to convince us that this is just a one-off response to regional tensions. But make no mistake, this is part of something much larger. It's a hybrid war with physical, mental, and spiritual attacks. It's a struggle between truth and manipulation, between light and darkness, between prophecy and deception. And it's up to us to understand the signs, be vigilant, and not fall for the facile narrative being pushed upon the world. Can you see how each action is interconnected? How the attacks by groups like the Houthis are not just independent, but part of a single destabilizing network? Do you realize that this veiled alliance between Iran and its regional allies is strengthening every day? We are witnessing the construction of a new axis of power in the Middle East, an axis that challenges not only Israel, but also the values of the West, the Christian faith and religious freedom. And all of this was prophesied. This is no coincidence. We are seeing the literal fulfillment of words recorded in Scripture. This isn't just a geopolitical confrontation. It's a call to spiritual vigilance, and you who are watching now are part of this. Your perception, understanding, and discernment are crucial at this time. There's something deeply unsettling when we begin to connect the dots that many prefer to ignore. The Houthi attack, the launch of the missile called Palestine 2, and Israel's immediate response are not, in themselves, just a military confrontation. They are signs of something being carefully crafted behind the scenes, by governments, hidden alliances, and strategies that most people don't even suspect. Because while the world looks to Gaza, southern Lebanon, or the streets of Tel Aviv, the real movements are happening in the shadows. It is there, far from the cameras and the headlines, that decisions are being made, that silent pacts are being forged, and that the fate of nations is being shaped. Think about it. The missile was named Palestine 2. That's not just a name. It's a provocation with political and spiritual weight. What's being said here without words is that this war isn't just about territory or defense. It's a battle for Israel's identity, its name, its memory, its very existence. It's an attack on its symbol, and that changes everything. Why would the Houthis, a rebel group in Yemen, go to the trouble of launching such a sophisticated missile with that specific name? Because they're fulfilling a role in a much larger script, one that was drawn up centuries ago and is now approaching its culmination. Interestingly, at the same time the missile was being fired, US satellites detected unusual movements at Iranian bases in the north of the country. Unconfirmed information suggests the deployment of long-range missile systems toward Iran's western border. This could, in the blink of an eye, put all of Israel within range of a coordinated attack. Coincidence or preparation? That's the question more experienced analysts are beginning to ask. But perhaps the answer lies far beyond traditional military analysis. The current scenario is beginning to look more and more like a prophetic play being played out in real time. The involvement of actors like Russia and China isn't just diplomatic. Unofficial sources indicate that tracking and navigation technology used in the Palestine 2 missile may have originated in Eastern Europe, something that raises serious suspicions about the neutrality of certain nations. Why are so many powers positioning themselves around Israel at this moment? What makes this small country so central to global geopolitics? The answer may lie not only in the land, but in the spiritual promise it holds. And this is where many prefer to stop watching, because facing this reality means admitting that we are entering an era in which science, politics, and spirituality are no longer separate. They are converging, and that's frightening. What was once dismissed as conspiracy theories or religious hype is beginning to manifest before our eyes, objectively, concretely, and irrefutably. It's no longer a question of if it will happen, but when. And it seems the clock is ticking faster than ever. Meanwhile, the world's population remains preoccupied with internal crises, local political scandals, and digital distractions that make it seem like everything is under control. But the truth is that something big is being created, a new order, a new paradigm, where those who aren't paying attention will be swept away by the current. This war between Iran and Israel isn't just a military dispute. It's a cog in a much broader system involving information control, social engineering, spiritual manipulation, and perhaps even preparation for the arrival of a figure who will unify all these elements. The prophesied leader who will emerge in times of chaos. And don't think this escalation will slow down. Quite the contrary. There are reports circulating in military circles indicating that sleeper cells in the Middle East and North Africa are being silently activated. Armed groups with extremist ideologies and cutting-edge technological support are strategically positioning themselves, all in sync with Tehran's moves. This is no longer a conventional war. It's hybrid warfare, fifth-generation warfare, and Israel is in the crosshairs. Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, religious activity is also growing. Construction of artifacts for the Third Temple is already well underway, with funds being discreetly channeled from around the world. Rumors swirl that religious and political leaders are planning a ceremony that could completely change the spiritual atmosphere of the region. Is it a coincidence that all of this is happening at the same time? Or are we seeing the layers peel back before a generation that chose to forget the prophecies? And in the midst of all this, the average citizen, you, me, all of us, is bombarded with conflicting information, superficial analyses, and fabricated opinions. The mission seems clear: to confuse, divide, and slow the reaction. While the enemy advances strategically, the world is being anesthetized. And that's why this type of content, which you're watching now, becomes so crucial. Because here there are no masks. Here we talk about what bothers people, what many refuse to face, what unfortunately is already a developing reality. The silence of many nations is as revealing as the speech of others. The Arab world is divided between veiled support and diplomatic condemnation. Europe, hostage to its own energy interests, prefers not to take a clear position. And the United States, even with its military might, knows that every move now could trigger an irreversible conflict. It's a delicate game where each piece is being moved with almost surgical precision. But the truth is that time is running out. A time that, according to Scripture, precedes days of darkness and revelations. Have you ever stopped to think why so many biblical prophecies focus on this particular region of the world? Why is Israel, a country the size of a Brazilian state, the epicenter of so many disputes, interests, and spiritual visions? The answer is beyond human logic. It lies in the promise that this piece of land represents. In the battle that rages not just between armies, but between kingdoms, the visible and the invisible are colliding, and those who are unprepared will be caught off guard. If you've been following this video this far, it's because you sense in your soul that something is wrong, that what's being shown isn't all that's happening. And you're right, there are forces at work. Decisions are being made behind heavy curtains. There are alliances that defy reason and agreements that aren't signed on paper. All of this is happening now, at this very moment, and only those who remain vigilant will have enough discernment to understand what's coming. So, if something in this video awakened you, if any information here made you reflect, I want you to write in the comments, "I'm not sleeping," write this down. Show that you're one of those who see beyond the surface, that you refuse to be manipulated by edited versions of the truth. And more than that, share this video. Take this message to those who haven't yet woken up, because the next movement could be even faster, quieter, more devastating. And here, you'll be prepared to understand what's behind it all. Stay tuned, because what's about to happen hasn't been told yet.